Radio Show.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the 25th Hour Radio Show here on Monster Radio AM 1150. I am your host, Rob Fairless, and on the phone with me today is the primary owner of the Field of Dreams movie site, Denise Stillman. Denise, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to join me on the show.
Absolutely my pleasure, Rob.
Now, Denise, just to make sure everyone out there listening right now is on the same page as you and me, when you say Field of Dreams movie site, in the owner's words, describe the history behind this property. How did it first come to be?
Wow, that's a long story. We could take the whole interview telling that. But
and the Cliff Notes version.
Right. So the movie that was filmed here in 1988, released in April of 1989, starring Kevin Costner and Amy Madigan, the farm that was used for that filming primarily is still in existence as a tourism site. So in Dyersville, Iowa, which is about 45 miles west of the Mississippi in Iowa on Highway 20, is a beautiful 200-acre farm with the same white farmhouse, the same ball field that Universal Studios built, and all the memories here from 28 years of existence.
Now, what was the initial reasoning behind keeping the field intact after the movie was finished filming? I mean, it wasn't a tourist attraction then. Why keep it around?
Oh, it actually just organically grew. The first visitor came in May of 1989, just a few weeks after the film was released. And Don Lansing, who was a bachelor at the time and worked for John Deere, he was getting up to leave for work and walked outside and found a man sitting on the bleachers that were in the movie that were left here by the film crew. And that happened more and more frequently throughout May and June. And eventually people were coming to steal blades of grass and rocks and all the things that were left here from the movie site. So Don Lansing realized that people wanted this place to stay and they wanted to visit it. So he decided to keep it all and create a tourism site out of that. So it was because of public request and public interest that he kept everything going.
Now, how did you first get involved with the field, especially to the point that you wanted to purchase the property?
I was a baseball mom for 9 years. My son, who's now 16, was a travel baseball player, and he would go to these tournaments all over the country. And so this was in the late 2000s and early 2010s. So he introduced me to the notion that kids need a wonderful place to play. And when Don and then his wife Becky, who showed up later in the whole odyssey of this farm, they decided they wanted to sell the farm because they were retiring and they didn't really want to spend the energy and the time to take care of it and to make sure it's set up for visitors. So they decided to sell the farm, and along on that same path, I was sitting at baseball games thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have a wonderful place in the middle of the country for kids to come and play? And then someone said, did you know the Field of Dreams movie site's for sale? And I said, wow, that would be a fantastic place to keep just like it is and build onto it by adding kids' baseball and softball fields.
Now, I know you're the primary owner of the property, but did you at the time at least have other people invest in this property who shared the same vision as you did?
It's the reverse. I was the crazy one. So just like in the movie, there was the husband who had this crazy notion that he needed to build a ball field in his cornfield. And I was the crazy one who said we should buy that and build ball fields, more ball fields there to augment what's there already. So we purchased the property, at least put the earnest money down, right? And then I went to work raising money to have other investors join us. So I sold the vision. We've got partners now, limited partners who work with us and who will share in, the benefit of what we're going to build, and who currently share in what we're doing here at the Field of Dreams.
Now, since you have purchased the movie site, you've expanded and brought in new ideas and features to the property, and I'm going to get into that here in a second. But as far as just the house and field is concerned, what can patrons of the Field of Dreams experience by taking a trip to Dyersville, Iowa?
Oh, and I can tell you, Rob, we get patrons from all over the world. Just 2 weeks ago, I met some folks from Denmark and Sweden who were visiting here. Some were visiting friends in Iowa, others were just passing through. And we very frequently throughout the summer have visitors from Japan and Australia and in Europe who just have heard about the movie or seen the movie and love it. So when they do come to visit, it's just like it was in the movie. There's always a pickup game going on. If they have bats and gloves in their car and balls, they can play. If not, we have them for rent at the gift shop, and they can join in a game of pickup. They can sit under the shady trees and watch the games. They can look at the original bleachers that were left here, though they're still preserved, and there's a carving in the wood on the top bench that Kevin Costner carved. It says Ray loves Annie. So that is still here. And they can buy souvenirs to take home and build their memories with. And they can also now enjoy a tour of the lower level of the home. The home was just opened this year for home tours, and it's never been opened before. But the home was renovated pretty substantially in 1988 for the movie, and we have preserved that lower level so it looks like Ray and Annie Kinsella still live here. So they get to tour it, they hear the stories of what happened inside the home, what happened during the filming of the movie. There's a lot of trivia and things that the public doesn't know or didn't know until they take the tour. So it's quite an interesting half hour that they spend with a live guide, and then they leave with a token souvenir that they can't buy anywhere else.
Now, what I just learned a few days ago, every year on Labor Day weekend, you can come and watch the Team of Dreams play. If you don't mind, expand on that, because I think this is really, really cool.
Wow, it is, Rob, because it is the only place and the only one time in the year that baseball lovers can see Major League Baseball Hall of Famers, and some are just Hall of Fame or Major League greats. They may not be in the hall, but they come out as a team and they play with fantasy players, so people can buy a fantasy player ticket and play in the game with these guys. Now, we are all sold out for this year, so I don't want any of your listeners to get excited about that because that's already a done deal. But they walk out of the corn and they come out and play a game under the lights on Sunday night before Labor Day, the Labor Day holiday, and they play an actual game. They play softball. They don't play baseball. But it's the likes of Wade Boggs, who's one of our owners, Reggie Jackson, Frank Thomas, Steve Carlton, Tim Raines this year, who is a Hall of Fame inductee. So he's getting inducted in a couple weeks into the Hall of Fame, and a host of other great players. So we usually field the team from MLB players. We field a team of fantasy players, and they enjoy a game out on the field. And there's an autograph show and a live Q&A. They get to interact. The crowd gets to interact with the players. And usually every weekend we do either a dinner or a breakfast. And we're doing a breakfast this year. They can also buy tickets to, and they can do ask questions of a panel of these players every half hour. They change, and they get to ask questions about what life was like as an MLB player. So it's super cool, up and close, personal with these guys, and a rare ability to be able to see them play together.
Now, do you ever get any feedback from the players, the pro players, on what it's like to actually get to play on the field of dreams?
They become like little boys again, and getting a chance to get out, on the field. We have usually several thousand people here, between 3,000 and 4,000 people. So it's a joy for them because they get to be in the game again. But it's in a much more relaxed and magical atmosphere, and so they absolutely love it. That's why they come back. Some of our players come back year after year. Ozzie Smith is one of them.
Yeah, now, like I mentioned earlier, you have expanded. You've built Ballpark Heaven. Now, how cool is that name as it relates to the field? What's Ballpark Heaven?
So Ballpark Heaven is, we're going to break ground on that hopefully this year, knock wood. The Ballpark Heaven, the meaning behind that is we are taking the images of ballparks that have died and gone to heaven, theoretically, right? They're no longer in existence, like Ebbets Field, Polo Grounds, the old Comiskey Park, and turning those into smaller versions all players can play at. So they will be built deep into the corn. We're preserving the corn around the Field of Dreams movie site, but because it's 200 acres, and really all that people see when they come here is about 12 to 15 acres of it from what you can see on the ground, and taking the rest of the property and turning that into basically a playground for younger kids, so we can teach them about baseball history, how to fall in love with baseball again, how to do a box score, things that they don't really focus on because all they think about now is winning trophies and hitting the ball as hard as they can, but teaching them more about strategy and how to win the game. And along there, in between the games, we're going to talk about things like financial literacy, nutrition, how to treat their bodies well. Wade wants to talk about winning mindsets. Matthew Perry from Friends fame, Chandler Bing, he's one of the owners as well, and he wants to talk about drug and alcohol resistance and teach kids about that. So we'll have all education modules on those too that the kids can learn in between their games while they're here for a week.
Now, who do you think gets more excited when these kids come and play? The kids, or the coaches, or the parents?
It's definitely the coaches first, and then they pass on their excitement to the kids and what the coaches are doing. And that's why we feel those two businesses, those two um, activities are so symbiotic, is when the coaches come to bring their teams to play, they will make the kids watch the movie so they can appreciate it more when they come. And so the children then become more excited and they know about Field of Dreams. So it'll perpetuate the excitement about this beautiful farm that's been here for 28 years for many generations to come.
You know, I was getting ready to ask you if it was going to be a requirement by the coaches that the kids have to watch the film so they know the significance of the hallowed ground that they'll be playing on. So it's interesting you answered that question for me. You know, kind of along the same lines here, I was reading the reviews on the Field of Dreams movie site Facebook page, and I find it really interesting that a lot of people get really emotional upon first seeing the park as they're driving up the road. Some even describe it as spiritual. How do you explain that?
Uh, Rob, I have lived here now for 4 years, and I still get chills. I still experience that same sort of feeling. I do feel, in a sense, and some people think I'm quirky for saying this, but that it is some sort of spiritual vortex here, and there's a reason that Universal Studios chose Don Lansing's farm to build their movie set. It's been proven, decade after decade, that people do feel something when they're here. We've even had ghost hunters ask us to, if they could do their readings and things here.
Really?
I said,
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I haven't seen any ghosts, but there are, I do believe, I think there's some energetic fields here that do call people to the place and people feel when they come. So they come for many reasons. People come to just to stop and see something that they've heard about. Some people come a year after someone has died who loved baseball as a way to celebrate them as a memorial. Some people come to get married here. Some people ask us to spread ashes, which we do not technically allow, but we do get requests for all of those things, and it's a very unique opportunity for me as the caretaker of the place to be able to comfort people in their time of need and to be able to celebrate with them when they're coming here to celebrate something. So it's a really cool place.
Now, do you have any more plans to expand on the location? Or are you happy with what you have at the moment?
Well, it's Field of Dreams movie site is a beautiful place that really has a character of its own. And we've grown organically but very carefully with the events that we host. As I mentioned, the Ghost Players earlier, they come out now 4 or 5 times a summer. We do a show on Sundays. It's free, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, usually 4th of July weekend, and every other Sunday for about 4 or 5 Sundays. Just depends on the ghost schedule. But guys that were actually in the movie and have, they have speaking parts. One of them has a speaking part, and he still gets a residual check every so often. But they come out of the corn. They do a kind of a comedy show. It's a family-friendly comedy show, just like the Harlem Globetrotters, but with baseball. And they entertain the crowd, and they sign autographs, and that's a wonderful thing that we brought back that wasn't here before. But any other events, any other expansion, we do very carefully, and we listen to our fans and our audience and figure out what we'll do. People have asked, could you build a bed and breakfast so we could actually sleep there overnight? We've had people want to pitch tents and do a campground. So we've considered all those things, and we'll put those in the future plans, but we'll do it very carefully and organically.
So what about social media, website? Where can people go to get more info and start to plan their first trip to Dyersville?
Yeah. Facebook is a great place to start. You mentioned that earlier. TripAdvisor is another great website because there's a lot of information about other things to do in Dyersville. Dyersville is a beautiful little town of about 4,100, and they have this amazing, gorgeous German Gothic architecture basilica that you would normally not find in a small town. They have a farm toy museum, and for those who don't know about that, it's miniature replicas of John Deere tractors. If you've got a little boy or girl who loves those, they will absolutely love that museum. There's a doll museum here that has historical dolls, and so little girls can see that. So that's on TripAdvisor. But look at Facebook, and you can see our hours of operation on there. And we also have a website, FOD for Field of Dreams. So FODmoviesite.com. And that has all the information about the events and the hours and the tours and where to stay and how to get here. So it's full of information.
So before we wrap things up here, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners that perhaps I didn't touch on? Maybe something in your own words as to why the Field of Dreams movie site should be on their bucket list of places to visit?
Oh, you know what? The most interesting thing to share is that we do have a guest book, and very frequently, I'd say maybe 60% of the people who come share where they came from, why they're here, and that is some of the best reasons to keep this place open and free to the public. So for those who are planning a visit, I can tell you, you will leave with stories and memories that will be emblazoned in your mind forever. And we do get very good ratings everywhere we go, so we can't imagine they're going to be anything but great memories, because if you come with an open mind and a relaxed attitude, just come to enjoy the beauty of the place and the purity of baseball, you will just have a blast.
Well, Denise, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks again for taking time out to join me on the show.
You're welcome, Rob. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care.